My friend and neighbour invited us to pick some blackcurrants. He's got a whole load of blackcurrant and red currant and gooseberry bushes amongst other soft fruits. And the blackcurrants are early this year, I think because of the warm weather we've been having. They were literally falling off the bushes. And he invited me to pick as many as I fancied. And so I've picked this little tub of blackcurrants. We're going to make some lovely blackcurrant compote. First thing I've got to do is just give these a thorough wash. Now these are washed, I'm just going to pick through them and discard the stalks. With gooseberries, which are a larger relative of blackcurrants, it's desirable sometimes to top and tail them, so to take off the stalk and the persistent little calyx at the bottom there. With blackcurrants, it's generally not considered necessary to do that. I think it's probably just that it would be too fiddly to tail them, that is to take off the calyx, but I will remove the stalks. So when I say compot, that sometimes confuses people because I think the term compot in other parts of the world means something quite different. Compot to me is a bit like jam, typically with less sugar. So it's a short-term preserve made from cooking fruit with a little bit of sugar. And that's what we're going to do today. So we're not making jam. This is not going to be preserved like jam. It's not going to last as long as jam. I don't honestly see that being a problem. I think we'll manage to consume it in good time. But also, it won't be as sugary as jam. So it will have a bit more tang to it, and it will combine well with things that perhaps need a little bit of acidity. So that's my blackcurrants washed and picked over, and I'm going to weigh these. So we've got 442 grams of blackcurrants. I'm going to add about 1/5 of that amount, 20% of that amount in sugar, which I will calculate in a moment. To answer a couple of potential questions, what the heck are blackcurrants for the start? Blackcurrants are Ribes nigrum. They are related to gooseberries. They are the default purple flavour in the UK. So when we have sweets that are purple, our expectation is typically that those will be blackcurrant flavoured. I think it's native to Northern Europe, including Great Britain. Down here in the south of England, red currants are more common than blackcurrants growing wild. Up north and in the Midlands, gooseberries are the most common, and then further north up in Scotland, I think blackcurrants are more common than red currants or gooseberries in terms of what grows wild. They're not that common in the United States because they were forbidden to be grown there, because this family of plants is one of the multiple hosts for, I think, pine rust, fungal diseases that were damaging to forestry. And so it was banned for a long time in the United States. It was illegal to grow blackcurrants. I think that ban has now been lifted, and I think it is actually legal to grow them now. But as a legacy of that long-standing ban, blackcurrants are just not particularly well known and particularly widely grown in the United States. You might be wondering, why am I not just going to eat these delicious berries fresh and raw? Well, I'll try one and I'll let you know what that experience is like. Quite sour, slightly bitter. And something can be sour and bitter at the same time. That's the thing that confuses people sometimes. Because many alkaline things taste bitter, it's commonly assumed that bitter things must be alkaline, but bitterness is a much broader category than just alkaline things. Anyway, so I'm going to stew these down with some sugar. That will bring out the aromas. It will also, the sweetness will just balance that acidity. So not commonly eaten as a fresh, raw fruit, most often processed into jam, cordial. The plant is called Ribes nigrum. That's where the name Ribena comes from. Ribena is a very popular brand of blackcurrant cordial. Anyway, I've been talking far too much. Let's get it cooking. So according to my calculations, we will need 59 grams of sugar, 1/5 of the weight of the fruit. See if we can get it spot on. There we go. 59 grams of sugar, 20% of the weight of the fruit. We're also going to have the juice of 1 lemon. So if it was a larger amount than this, if it was a whole kilo of blackcurrants, I suppose I might put 2 lemons in there. But 1 lemon seems like about the right amount for nearly half a kilo of blackcurrants. Off to the cooker now. So I'm just going to heat these until they burst and the sugar dissolves and it all cooks together. I don't need to add any more liquid. There is the lemon juice in there, and as these cook and burst and the juice comes out of them, that will provide all of the liquid we need. Now, if you've never tasted blackcurrants before, it's very, very difficult to describe the flavour, but I will try. They've got a very berry-like flavour, so if you imagine blueberries or cherries or those sorts of dark fruits, they've got that kind of berryness to them, but they've also got a distinctly herbal, aromatic note to them. I suppose I might liken it a little bit to the smell of tomato foliage. If you've ever smelt the foliage of tomato plants, blackcurrant plants, it's similar. It's not the same, but I'm describing that kind of herbal, spicy, leafy aroma. Right, so those are starting to simmer now. I will probably just turn the heat down. And the idea here is not to cook this down into an unrecognisable mush. We're going to cook this down just until it's a little bit thickened and jam-like. Right, so there we go. We've only been going probably about 4 or 5 minutes, and we're there. The fruits have all burst, released their delicious juice. Now, of course, something fruity napalm, but there's no harm in trying a little bit of this right now. I'm just going to blow on that and cool it down until it's cool enough to put in my mouth. Okay, don't try this at home, kids. I'm happy to take the risk myself. Wow, it's just amazing how much extra flavour and aroma has come out of those fruits just as a result of that tiny bit of cooking. It's really, really just brought the flavours to life. So I will cover that now, keep the flies out, and then let that cool for 10 minutes before we put it in a jar. A little time has elapsed, so using a jam funnel, I'm just going to fill up this jar with the blackcurrant compot. Now, not sterilised any of my jars or equipment here, and it doesn't matter because this isn't jam. This is not for long-term storage. This is going to, after it's cooled, going to go straight in the fridge, and it's not going to have to last a long time. The acidity and the sugar content will be more than adequate to preserve this for the couple of weeks it's going to survive in the fridge. And I don't intend this to be hanging around for long because it's delicious, and yeah, it's not going to get a chance to go off. So I'll just cover that, and when that's cooled down completely, that'll go in the fridge. And then next we've got to decide what we're going to serve this with. So probably the very simplest idea would be just to take some plain natural yogurt like this and turn it into fruit flavoured yogurt. So as you can see, now it's cooled down, it's the consistency of this compot is syrupy. So, you know, like those fruit corner yogurts? Basically a slightly more virtuous version of that, because there's less sugar in this than there is in those. So, you know, I could just stir that in and mix it, but I quite like the unmixed heterogeneity of it. That is really good. Despite being incredibly simple, that is so good. And yes, it is sharp, but in a really kind of quite exciting way. Or breakfast. Now, this stuff has a breakfast option. You know, you could stir it into porridge. You could have it over yogurt on top of muesli. But I rather fancy a bit of peanut butter on toast with this instead of jam. Perhaps just a little bit more of a grown-up PB&J. Let's give that a try. Yeah, I like that. One thing I think would probably be quite obviously good with this blackcurrant compot is ice cream. So I'm going to have a bit of fruit and ice cream. Nice bit of white nectarine. The last few tayberries from the garden. And then just a scoop of vanilla clotted cream ice cream. Some of this stuff over the top of the ice cream, I think. And you can see how syrupy that is, even though there's not an awful lot of sugar in that. And again, I think this is one of these things where it just tastes a little bit more grown up because it hasn't got a ton of sugar in it. I don't think I need to taste this one on camera. I think you can probably guess how good that's going to be. One way that we can use this blackcurrant compote is with pancakes. So yeah, probably most conventionally, we'd make some pancakes, we'd have this and some ice cream or some cream or something like that. But just to be a little bit different, I'm going to incorporate this into some pancakes today. So we're going to make Scotch pancakes, for which we need an egg, 200 ml of milk, which I can weigh because it's more or less the same density as water. So I will go for 200 grams. Near enough. And then I've got 25 grams of caster sugar. I'm just going to whisk those together. Then I need to add some flour. And for this, I've got 100 grams of plain white flour and 75 grams of spelt flour, just because I fancied making them a little bit wholemeal. If you think you don't like wholemeal flour, it's worth trying spelt, actually, because spelt's got some nice flavour to it, nice nutty flavour. These are both plain flours, so we will need a bit of baking powder, about a level teaspoonful. And then all of this flour and baking powder is going to go in at once into the mixture, and we'll just whisk. Until everything's wet. That's it. That is the extent of the whisking. You could keep whisking that until all the lumps are gone and it's completely smooth, but it's just not necessary to do that, and you do risk developing the gluten and ending up with tough, rubbery pancakes. Not a massive problem. I mean, I'm sure they'd still taste fine. We are going to use some of this blackcurrant compote, and I'm transferring this into a separate dish for reasons which will hopefully become apparent in a moment. Over here at the cooker, I'm just going to get this pan up to temperature. So I'll start off hot on this and then I'll turn it down to about sort of 3/4 because we want these to cook through. And I've got my pancake batter here, blackcurrant compote here, and then here I've just got a little bit of neutral vegetable oil and a brush. So just the lightest coating of oil, and we'll wait for that to get hot. And this bit's always a bit tricky, so I'm just going to put a couple of little drops of batter in there so I can figure out when we're up to temperature. Okay, I reckon we're about there. Eva can have these tiny pancakes. I'm just going to turn that down now to about 2/3 temperature, and we'll go in with, I think we'll just do one to start with so I can keep an eye on it. Well, one and a bit. And then the idea is we'll put some of this blackcurrant compote in there and give it a swirl around. I think they might be too hot. And that's why this is in a separate pot, because that's got to go back in there. It's got a bit of batter on it. Yeah, I think they're too hot. We'll see. Maybe not. That's a bit of a disaster. That didn't quite turn out as I hoped. But you know, first pancake is sometimes a bit of a mess anyway. Let's try that again on slightly lower heat. So a little bit of oil. Let's try that. Well, I think we could taste this one while we're waiting for that to cook on side one. The flavour is exactly what I was hoping for. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. Although actually, what about if I did that on purpose, but folded it exactly in half, sealing the blackcurrant stuff in the middle? Maybe that's what I should try. Okay, well, we'll see how the unfolded bit of this comes out, because we might well do that. Yeah, I think we might try that next time, because this jammy stuff on top here is just a bit of an ugly mess. So let us try that. Let's do that on purpose. I had no idea we'd be doing this, by the way. This is not carefully scripted. This is just me accidentally. You're watching me discover this on the fly. So, a bit of batter in there. We'll get that nicely spread out. And then my blackcurrant compot is only going to go on half of the pancake. There. A bit more than that, maybe. And then when we see bubbles starting to form in the top here, it does mean the bottom is starting to cook properly. Okay, and then we're going to try and fold that half over on top of the other half, like that. Now it's just going to take longer to cook because it's all oozing. Okay, keep going, keep going. I don't know if I'm inventing something that already exists here, turnover pancakes, or if this is not a thing that anybody's invented because it's not a very good idea. We'll see. Alright, let's flip that over. Yeah, this is going to take a bit longer to cook because obviously it's got to cook in the middle. We don't want raw batter in the middle. That does seem to have worked. Okay. Well, I'm going to leave that over there, just cooking a little bit longer, while we start another one over this side. And then that one will probably come out now. I don't know that that's a bad result. I think that could be all right. Now this is, I think, the part where somebody will tell me that's a thing their grandmother has been making forever. So if that's the case, I apologise for having presumed to invent something that already exists. There is truly nothing new under the sun. Anyway, we're going to have that with a bit of butter. Just let that butter melt onto those. There's no butter in the actual pancake recipe. Some pancake recipes do have butter incorporated into the batter, but there's none of that here. Anyway, so a bit of butter. I think we will have my usual little blob of Greek yogurt. I find it's just, this is nice to have something creamy, but not bland. It's creamy and it's got that, just that slight acidity, just a little drip of the blackcurrant compot on there, and a tiny little squirt of syrup. Let's give this a taste. I think first let's figure out, is it actually cooked inside? So yeah, it is cakey and cooked inside. That's good. That's my worst fear out of the way. It's nice. It's a pancake with delicious fruit in the middle. What wouldn't be good about that? So yeah, there you go. Turnover pancakes stuffed with blackcurrant compot. Quite nice, just like that. I almost forgot to mention the inclusion of the spelt flour in here, or wholemeal flour. I used 100 grams of plain flour to 75 grams of spelt flour. So it wasn't half, it was less than half. But yeah, the inclusion of the spelt flour in here, you kind of almost wouldn't notice it. Certainly texturally, it doesn't make it gritty or grainy or anything like that. Flavour wise though, you can taste a slight nuttiness from that flour, and I think it's really good. So that was all about blackcurrants and blackcurrant compot, and a few different ideas on how to use it. Do let me know in the comments what you think of blackcurrants, and maybe what you would use this stuff for. So thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.